Here's a quick and dirty little demo to help get people started. All right, so here's the page. Now the subject is more horizontal. So let's see, it's going to be something like that. This is the lowest point. This leg is here, higher up. This is about on the same level as that, more or less. The nose is about the same level as the... You can look at the negative shaping here to get this right. See, this neck isn't wide enough at all. All right, the result is this miserable little sketch, but roughly getting the thing in place. So that's the procedure. I'm going to do this again a little more seriously, and I can't set it up so that you can watch, but I'll give you my thinking. Now, I'm going to try to see the thing as a whole shape. All right, with the tail, I measure it. You can measure a thing. You take a length like this, and like if I'm going to measure my head, I put one end against one ear, and then I put my thumb. Then I can compare that to the vertical length. So I can see that my head is wider. My head is higher. Less than 2 times. The width of my head is less than 2 heights. Now what about the height of my eyes? Put the pencil there. I put my finger on the chin. Then I put my finger on my eye, and I see that this distance it's roughly in the middle of these two distances, and from this angle just a little bit, this distance is just a little bit greater. When you're measuring like this, you've got to keep your hand at the same distance. So you measure one thing, and then you take that measure and you put it on another part. But if you change the distance of your hand, the measure will go all out. So this measurement system works if you keep everything at the same distance from your eye. Another way to measure is, let's say, the bottom of this ear. You can use a horizontal, and you see that the bottom of the ear touches the top of the mouth there. The bottom of this ear touches the nose. The top of this ear is at almost the level of the bottom of the other ear, and the top of the other ear is above the eye. You can do the same thing vertically. My head is like that. Then let's see, this eye, where does it fall? Just about at the middle of the mouth. So you can use a pencil or a yardstick or anything that you hold out, and you can measure things and you can see where they are horizontally and vertically. That's a very useful thing. And eventually you just do it with your eye. You learn how to do it. So, all right, with the tail the thing is larger, but without the tail, I'm going to measure it like this. Without the tail, it's a little bit higher than it is large. So let's see. So I'm just roughly putting it in with a few indications. I don't know if you can see that. Now the front of the chest, what's its relationship to the rear end? What's higher, what's lower? Talk about that in just a second. All right. Right. You see, I'm not worrying about representing volumes. I'm not. Wait, this is no good. Now, for instance, when you're looking at the subject, you can look not just at these shapes, but you can look at this hole in here. You can look at the character of that whole. What does it mean to look at the character of something or to try to understand the character of something? To begin with, is the thing taken as a whole a taller or a wider shape? In other words, is it a rectangle that's higher than it is wide, or is it, would it fit into a rectangle that's higher than it is wide, or would it fit into a rectangle that's wider than it's high? That's the first thing. Then you start looking for other characteristics. And eventually you get into, is it soft? Is it hard? Is it angry? Is it happy? But first of all, is it higher than it is wide or wider than it is high? And then the different parts of it, where are they in relationship to each other, which you can measure with verticals and horizontals. So that's the beginning of seizing the character of a shape. And eventually you learn to just see a shape for what it is and have it in your mind and be able to put it on the page. I'll just block it in here. So it has a certain shape. It has a certain feel. So you can feel, say, what's the feel of that leg? Well, it's going slightly back. It's wider at the top, etc. So you can look at that. Then you can look at the negative shape there, so-called, or you can look at between the two back legs there. So you can check what you're doing, not only by looking at the positive shapes, but by looking at the negative shapes. Look at this shape. See, there's the neck and the back, but there's also this shape here. So it's just a way of keeping you alert. Now, this is a ugly little stupid thing, but don't forget, I'm the guy who did this and who did this, and you can take it from me that if you want to get there, you start here. Now, if you would like your sketches to be beautiful, then do them on newsprint with charcoal and have a cloth. And then each line, you can erase it, and each line, you can make each line beautiful. A charcoal line is automatically beautiful, more beautiful than a pencil line. Or you can not worry about that and just train your mind, train your eye. But if you want it to be beautiful, use charcoal. It's very messy. You can't do that in the living room. You have to have a studio, and you have to set it up and have nice big pieces of newsprint. And, so whatever. Train your eye. That's the main thing. Pencil can be beautiful too. There's all kinds of beauty. These are mostly composition kind of studies. Here's some attempts to draw Suzanne and all sorts of stuff. Not everything works out. This is kind of a nice one. This one not so good. It takes a lot of work to get something good. Suzanne's feet. More composition studies. That's for studies for Suzanne. Here's a quick study of Suzanne. But not good, but it's the beginning of something. But let's just take a little look at something. Not beautiful, but things are starting to get into place with that hand. It's not so simple to draw a hand like that. This drawing is probably made in a few seconds. So, here I am. I'm 64 and I'm still training myself. Studies from my eventually that's where we're going. All right, now here's Titian, or here's Fragonard. But bit by bit, we're going to get there. And those guys, had to teach themselves a lot too. I mean, they learned from others, but they had to teach themselves. Here's one of my figures from my painting. That's one of the studies for this figure. So that's what's involved in this work. Another thing you can do that is very helpful is to copy some great drawings. But to make that helpful, you'll have to do it in the right spirit. Now, a good thing to do is to copy Watteau. And what I did with my Watteau copies was to copy them line for line so that I could learn the language of the lines, how Watteau was speaking with each line. So rather than looking, trying to get the effect that Watteau gets, try to see how he's speaking. Now, another great influence of mine and another beautiful thing to look at, Tintoretto. Look at these drawings. I mean, Matisse and even, Picasso, they've got nothing on Tintoretto when it comes to freedom and expression. So there's nothing new in so-called modernism. Modernism, as I'm always saying, is revival of the essence. Beautiful, bright colors, strong expression, getting away from this miserable, impoverished, illustrative, optical kind of art that we sunk into ever since the French Revolution, and that we're still not out of, that modernism tried to save us from, and that then got out of hand. We've, it's a balancing act, tipping one way and then the other. We have to get back on the right track. Okay, please start doing some drawing. Anyone who would like to send me their efforts, I'd be happy to look at them and comment on them. I encourage everyone to have their sketchbooks, draw, train your eye.